Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here, also known as ETCG1 on this here channel. How the heck are you? I want you to notice that I've left the drawers of my toolbox open because it annoys some people. Today's topic is actually a request by a viewer on Facebook. It was Matthew Raybarzik. I hope I said that correctly. If I didn't, I apologize. But Ray was asking me when I would touch on the subject of dealership politics. And I thought, well, why not now? No time like the present. Why don't we make this ETCG1 video about dealership politics? It's a tricky question, kind of a slippery slope, if you will. It involves many different aspects. And I'll just preface this by saying that, at least for me, a lot of what I'm about to talk to you about is based on my 8 years as a dealership technician. And also a great deal on the comments that I get over at my forum, comments that I've seen on my videos for those of you watching the show. So I'm trying to draw upon all of those experiences to put this together for you. And I've been trying to think of who this actually benefits, but I guess it's just you, the viewer. I was originally thinking, I would try to sort of steer it towards a new technician maybe coming in, thinking about getting a job at a dealership and sort of, giving them a little bit of perspective. So maybe you can take a little bit of that away from this, but it's bigger than that, because politics, I think that the definition of the word is people relations. And they, in a dealership situation, can be, well, a challenge, let's just say. And let's just lay the foundation like this. In several other videos, I've talked about how many technicians get paid, and that's by the flat rate system. And the flat rate system basically means that you get paid on what you do. So say you get an oil change that comes in, you get paid like, say, 2 to 3 tenths worth of an hour for that job, and that is, you get paid X an hour. So you got a few dollars for doing an oil change. Doesn't matter if it took you a half an hour, doesn't matter if it took you 5 minutes, you're still going to get paid that 3 tenths or what have you. So in essence, technicians are working for every job that comes through their bay, or bays if they're fortunate enough to have more than one. Which creates an interesting situation, because when you come into the dealership, I've never seen one where you talk to technicians directly. I would say that's more the exception. 9 times out of 10, you're talking to a service writer or a service manager, or somebody that's going to type up or write up your problem, service, whatever you've brought the vehicle in for. So technicians don't deal directly with the customer base that's coming in, and as a result, they don't necessarily have control over the work that they do. Now, we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, we all, including myself, we all have things we like to do and things we don't necessarily like to do. There are also things at the dealership that make a lot of money and things that don't make a lot of money. For instance, say if you're doing service work. Service work oftentimes makes you a decent amount of money. And that's because you've done it several times, you can do it efficiently, and there's potential for upsell, such as a brake job or something else. So you could do quite well if you're getting services. On the flip side, if somebody brings something in for warranty or recall or something of that nature, those labor times are significantly reduced from the customer pay times. In fact, up to 50%, I would say. So say replacing part X on your vehicle bills 7 tenths of an hour as a warranty item. If it is customer pay, oftentimes it's 1.4. So the idea is to get as much customer pay work, as much quote-unquote easy or gravy work as possible by the end of the day, and avoid doing warranty work or any of those other type of work. One more thing you need to throw into the equation when you're talking about a dealership is the sales department. And salesmen may have technicians that they've come to rely on and do certain things for them. And in turn, those salesmen do certain things for those technicians, such as feed them work. And that work may be in the form of, add-ons or upsells, like say a spoiler or a towing package or something like that is a dealer add-on item to a particular vehicle. So that work can also pay quite well. And also working on brand new cars is oftentimes a lot easier than working on cars that have already rusted up on you. So when they're brand new, they come apart somewhat easier. Risk is a little bit higher, for if you break something, it gets kind of expensive and maybe hard to find. So you usually end up cannibalizing something that's out on the lot until a part comes in. Been there, done that. But all in all, that creates, I'm trying to create the whole atmosphere of what it is to be a dealership technician. Lastly, I'll add in, like, say, your car wash department. Maybe you have a car wash / detail department that when you're done servicing a vehicle, you send it over to them and They wash the car and then return it to the customer. I've even heard of places where technicians themselves have to wash the cars and have to deal with all that, perhaps at smaller dealerships and things. That wouldn't be so much fun, but the reason I mention them is because I have seen on more than one occasion where somebody who's working in the car wash or detail department move up into service. They move up into doing, minor services and oil changes, tire rotations, that kind of thing, to try to move up within the food chain of the dealership environment from, like, say, the car wash or a lot tech, somebody who goes out and grabs a car for a salesman or something like that, and that's what they're paid to do. They're paid to move cars around all day, for lack of a better word. And somebody like that might move into the service department. So this creates a whole dynamic of the dealership environment. Now let's add one more thing into this equation, and that's ego. I'm not going to say that I'm without ego, because I'm not. But I work very hard at trying to be away from that. And one of the reasons is because my dealership experiences, my experiences as a repair technician throughout, dealership or not, I've almost always run into somebody with a strong personality. And those strong personalities can create conflict for everybody, not just you. It could be they create conflict for management. They, create all kinds of problems. But I have found that in many situations that technicians tend to have bigger egos than most. Ow. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's always a bad thing, but let's face it, some guys take it farther than others. Some guys earn the right to be, king of the hill, and some guys act like they are but aren't even close. I can't really speak directly to those. I'm just putting that out as far as one of those dynamics that you deal with. So here's the situation. You're working as a technician in a dealership. You've got all these different people and departments coming into play, and you're trying to work them from a political standpoint to get the best work that you possibly can through your base, so that you can make a paycheck, so that you can feed your family, buy go fast parts for your car, whatever. And it's a tough game. It's a really tough game, and I can't really give you any direct advice as far as how to deal with those situations, because they're so unique in and of themselves. I mean, I'm speaking of them in general terms here, but as far as those personalities and how you interact with those personalities, how you get along with those people, it's really going to depend on you and how you deal with that situation. As a new technician coming into a dealership, maybe for the first time, probably the best advice I can give you is watch your back. And I say that, and that might make you a little bit nervous. I say that because as a new person coming into a dealership, you are the, for lack of a better word, FNG. And you will be until you prove yourself, and it may take a period of years for that to happen. But during that time, you'll form alliances, you'll form friendships, and some of those friendships will be good, some of those alliances will be good. Some of them maybe not so much. Some of them may bring you down. Some of them may cost you your job. Now, that's basically what happened to me. It was my friendship with other people that worked at the dealership that eventually caused my termination. You gotta be careful. You gotta watch your back, because you never really know. And sometimes you never really know who's gunning for you. I've been in situations where there were people that were trying to get me fired just because they didn't like the way I did things. And I know I'm not alone in that. I know there are other people out there that are experiencing a very similar thing. Something else I forgot to mention, nepotism. The boss's son is working in the shop. Yeah. Or daughter is working in the shop. Well, at least in my situation, a lot of what I could get away with and what I could do was based on the fact that nobody could say anything, because so-and-so's son could do pretty much whatever they wanted and get away with it. Well, good for them. Good for them. But it certainly did make life difficult. It certainly did make for a double standard. It was hard to follow the rules when so-and-so doesn't have to follow the rules. I've presented a bunch of problems to you. And try to paint as clear a picture as I can as far as dealership politics go, but it's a slippery slope. It's a tricky situation. I'll post some links in the description to things like the flat rate system and becoming a technician and like that, to try to give you, a more well-rounded view of where I'm coming from on this. But dealership politics, they're a killer. And as I said, watch your back, because those people that may act like your friends may not be your friends. But let's not leave it all negative. Let's talk about some of the benefits of working at the dealer. Some of the benefits are you're abreast of the latest and greatest technologies that are out there. You also have brand new models coming in. You get to see the latest technology. You get to drive around brand new cars all day long. That's kind of cool. can be kind of cool. It might get old after a while, but I mean, it's kind of neat to get in the latest and greatest whatever and just know what's there, know what those buttons do and everything else. Also training. The dealership is where you're going to get that factory training, which in my opinion, there's really little that's much better. The people that designed and manufactured the vehicle are probably going to know more about it than anybody else. And for them to be able to let you into sometimes proprietary information is a real bonus. You really get to know a car line well. I mean, really well. You get to know their pattern failures. You get to know what models, you know, the characteristics of different models and how they react to different things. I mean, I learned a lot about different tire types on Hondas just because of all the vehicles that I got in. So you get 20 of the same vehicle and they all have a different set of tires on them. You can get a pretty good assessment of what tires work well on that vehicle. You don't necessarily get that knowledge in an independent shop where you're only working on, say, 1 or 2 of those models every few months. But if you're working on the same model like day in, day out, and you get to see it in its evolution over time, you know, you get to see what is now the latest version, but 10 years from now, it's just another car. But you know it since its inception. So that kind of knowledge, that kind of backstory to those vehicles really helps a lot when you go to do your diagnosis, having that extra information, knowing that there was a TSB on this particular problem on this particular vehicle, and you could go in there in about 5 minutes and solve the problem and actually maybe make a decent paycheck as a result of that. So there are upsides to the dealership, no doubt. And also you could probably argue that you could make more at a dealership than you could at, say, in most independent shops. And the reason for that is volume. Because dealerships, they have the volume. And I say that, you know, even when times are slow, people are still bringing things in for warranty work most times. So you'll have that to fall back on. So there's that, new car sales and the pre-delivery inspections that go along with new car sales. You know, all those things come into play as far as income that you wouldn't necessarily have anywhere else. So the dealership situation does have a lot to offer in that sense. There's lots of income potential, but at what cost? And that cost is those politics that you have to deal with. So I'm going to pose the question to you. What are your experiences at the dealership, both as a technician, as a beginning technician, as a technician who's been doing this for 30, 40 years? I'd love to hear your input. Also, if you're a customer and maybe you've witnessed some of these dealership politics at play, and you've seen maybe a technician who's a little disappointed about the work they're getting or not getting, and maybe seen that play out in front of you. I'd love to hear about your experiences. In the description of this video, there will be a link to a discussion on my forum over at ericthecarguy.com about it. And in addition, I will answer as many comments as I can, but I do read them all. Know that I do read them. So there you have it, dealership politics. A lot there. Anyway, I am Eric the Car Guy, also known as ETCG1 here on this channel. If you have automotive questions for me, I would ask that you go to my website, type in a couple of keywords to the search function there on the home page, and very likely you might come up with an instant answer to your problem. But if that doesn't happen, I would ask that you sign up for our forum. It's absolutely free. All you need is an email address. Do not forget to respond to the confirmation email that should show up. If it doesn't, check your spam folder. In order to complete your registration. Other than that, if you want to connect with me on social networks, I can be found on Google+, Facebook, and Twitter. And I will close this one with be safe, have fun, stay dirty, and watch your back. Take care, everybody.